All right, it's mid-June. We're getting close to that 4th of July date, boys. All you slackers should be putting your cameras out here soon, but maybe you guys already got them out. You know, today I'd like to talk about summer scouting tactics, specifically how I go about my summer scouting. You know, I'm a little bit more extreme, but that being said, I'm trying to figure out at least 15 to 20 different options that I know where these bucks are living. I know what they're doing probably come fall. And the reason being is because I take several people out. I need several opportunities. I need a plan A all the way to plan Z. You look back at the Vendetta year, losing all those bucks to EHD. All my options were diminished, but I still had that one option, and that was because of all the scouting, all the work, all the preparation that I did prior to fall. So let's get into it, man. There's 5 things that I want to touch on, 5 topics that I should say that are very important for creating the most successful environment that you can have come fall. Now, the first topic is goals. And what I mean by that is every year, I think it's very wise to set a goal. That way you stay on a straight line of what you're trying to accomplish all fall long. It helps me stay concreted in the fact that dragging my butt out there, man, when it's miserable conditions, you know. I really like the challenge of things. And to make things a little harder or make things a little bit more difficult, for me, I like challenging myself by trying to target with my Iowa resident bow tag. I like trying to target the highest caliber whitetail I can find. You know, driving around since I was a little kid, it was always holy smokes, if you saw a really big buck, you know. It didn't happen very often. So some reason it just clicked and stayed with me that I am just obsessed with seeing how big whitetails can get. It's not really about the kill for me, but I just like being around big deer, man. On top of that goal, I still have multiple others, like trying to get Casey a deer, trying to get my other buddies a deer. You know, I got Coley and Dave coming down this year for late season. Casey's dad last year came for late season. We got him on a buck. So a lot of my guys that I'm helping manage their farms with too, you know, they have a lot of guests as well. So part of my job is helping those guys try and get on a deer as fast as possible. That way they have the best trip as possible. So summer scouting is very crucial in trying to figure out and have an understanding of what these deer are doing. Now, there's going to be a lot of guys that are thinking right here in this video, man, these bucks are moving around all summer long. By the time it comes to fall, they're going to be in Kingdom Come, who knows where. Some areas, that's true. Let's talk about that real quick. I know I ramble a lot, but there's so many different topics that I want to talk about all the time that I can't help myself but divulge. So you have different pressure scenarios wherever you're at in Iowa, wherever you're at in the United States, sorry. So where I'm at right here, for example, these are very unpressured farms. These are very manicured farms. They have food plots, they have very good cover, all the timbers managed and everything. They're bougie, as my sister would say. From what I've seen, these deer are not leaving a square mile area. They are very, very tight, they're very core, they very seldomly cross the road kind of deal. Now you go back where I'm from, where I hunt, private permission or public, those permission farms, you got farmers that are going out there spraying their crops throughout the year, kicking bucks around. On the public, you got guys that are walking the public, putting trail cameras up, going hiking, stuff like that. So these deer, they're getting bounced around a lot more. And what I've found, those deer are in the most secluded, unpressured, where no one's messing with them kind of areas. Those areas can be very overlooked at times. Now, after you get your goals established, we can move on from this. What I'm thinking about next is permission. There's one thing that I've learned with the whole permission deal, and that is you can't hunt a high caliber whitetail if you don't have a high caliber whitetail living on that farm or roaming on that farm. Now let's take it a step further from that's something that I learned at a young age. Now in the middle of my time frame, I learned that the best opportunity that you have at killing that big buck is hunting the big buck on the actual property that the big buck resides on. What I mean by that is, say we're getting a bunch of nocturnal photos of the buck on this farm. Well, he's more than likely not on that farm if you're covering that farm well with trail cameras if you're scouting as well. So that means he's off the farm. Now let me give an example here. That was happening with Lucky. That was happening there in that year with the 2023. He was out the farm all the time. So you know what I did? I went around the whole neighborhood and I gobbled up like 1,500 acres of permission. Did that in the summer, early fall. Put cameras on those properties. Ended up finding him dead on those properties as well. So don't always hold yourself to just one property. Go ask the neighbors, hey, can I get permission to hunt over here? You know, I'm chasing this deer, he's in the area, I think he could be on your farm. You know, if they're not inclined to say yes to the hunting, okay, well, would you guys mind if I run a trail camera here on the farm? I don't want to hunt or anything, but I just want to run the camera just to know when he's on the farm and what he's doing, just kind of figure him out. It's what I enjoy to do. I've had several opportunities like that as well. Actually, the property that OG died on, property I was just talking about, where Lucky was living, and I'd filmed him his whole life. I didn't have permission to hunt that draw, but I had permission to run cameras in there. And that one camera was the same camera that was the non-cell cam that had the photo of Vendetta. If I would have never put that camera up in the summer or got permission to put cameras on that property without hunting there, I would have never known that deer was alive. So there's your example of how that one extra permission property could be the difference in capitalizing come fall. Now, the permission topic goes hand in hand with the third topic, and that's trail cameras. My trail camera scouting is designed to pick up as many bucks, as many targets as possible. And here's what I mean by that. I have a set amount of farms that every year I'm running cameras on no matter what, because say there's always a booner on this farm or there's always a couple 160s on this farm. I gotta keep running cameras on there. That way I know what's in the loop. You never know, giant might pull up. Now I have several other farms that every year I'm gonna go out about this time of year, about mid-June. And I say mid-June because you can't really tell what deer are gonna do. Seems like until they get outside their ears. And once we get to this growing part, or this time frame, this part of the growing season, I'm putting 1 to 2 cameras per permission property. Now I'm gonna run that one camera, those 2 cameras over feed on that property. And I say 1 to 2 cameras because it depends on the farm size. It depends how many deer are on that property. I'm running both those cameras over feed, and I will let those cameras soak for about 2 weeks. After about 2 weeks, that feed's gonna be gone, mineral's gonna be gone or whatever, and I'm gonna have a really good understanding of when I go check that SD card, what exactly is living on this farm, what's in the area. Now, say I have a biggin, or I have a really good buck that I wanna continue to follow all the way throughout the fall and whatnot, I'm gonna leave that camera there. I might put more cameras on that farm just to figure them out if it's one that I'm for sure gonna target. Now, if I say I ran those cameras for 2 weeks and there's nothing but scrub bucks, there's a couple mature bucks, but they're just not what I'm looking for. All right, well, I'm gonna take those cameras out of there after 2 weeks. I'm gonna go grab another bag of corn or another mineral block or whatever. I'm gonna go to the next permission farm. And I'm gonna do the same thing for 2 weeks. I'm gonna let my cameras sit over feed. I'm gonna see what is out there for inventory. And rinse and repeat on to the next farm if there's not a big in there. Now, I just mentioned earlier, my goals is to target the biggest buck, to find the biggest buck that I can find in the summer months and try targeting that deer come fall specifically. Now, if you're just looking for a mature buck, this might be a little extreme for you. It's a lot of work. It takes a little bit of money and income and whatnot, but it is fun having, I mean, just for example, I don't mean to say this to like brag or anything, but at the end of summer, I normally have anywhere from 50 to 100 deer that are mature, more than that, but that are mature, high caliber whitetails. I might have 15 to 20 that are over 170, 160s, you know. It's been a lot worse with the last couple of years of VHD, but shoot, man, I used to have a 200 or at least a 180 every single year. And the only reason I had that was because I was scouting all summer long trying to find these bucks. So moving on from trail cameras, I would say next would be location. And there's a couple different things I want to talk about location. Man, I gotta take this sweatshirt off, man. It's getting hot. It will Hall Custom Farms. Good buddy of mine, Spencer Hall. He's helped me out quite a bit. Give him a little shout out. Now with location, here's one thing I want to bring up right from the get-go, because this is a very big topic, I guess, from what I hear people talk about. Deer change their areas, their core areas where they're going to be in the summer. Sometimes those areas won't change in the early part of fall if harvest hasn't started. And here's what I mean by that. Say May to about the first week of July. That's normally the time frame. Those deer are in a specific area. The reason being is because those fields, all the ag has been planted, it's growing, but it's not at knee to mid-thigh height. These deer can't feel secluded living out in these bean fields, living out in these corn fields. Now once July 4th hits, you always hear the saying, knee high by the 4th of July. Once that hits, that's a cover change. It's a cover change. It's not a food change or anything like that. Beans aren't putting pods on yet. Corn doesn't have ears yet. We're not tasseling yet. It's a cover change. Those deer can go out there, feel secluded, feel safe out in that cornfield, in that bean field. They're a lot more spread out that time of year. They're a little bit tougher to get on camera. Now once, all the way from July to harvest, once we harvest, that's another cover change. You see all the crops come out, boom. Trail cameras are awesome, bucks are hitting scrapes everywhere, you know, it's a little cooler, so they're moving a little bit more in daytime hours. But it's mostly just a cover change is all I've found it to be, boys. While we're on the big ag topic, I want to talk about my #1 spot for finding a big one if you're looking for a camera spot. And that's in a pond in the middle of an ag field, boys. Think about it. Most farms don't have multiple ponds. Most farms don't have ponds. So if you have a pond on your property and it is located in the middle of an ag field, I 100% KG guarantee you that all your deer are probably getting water from that pond. Now think about it like this. The whole property, we need to figure out where these bucks are. But these bucks, deer I should say, are moving all over this property. There's food all over this property. There's a 100-acre ag field or 40-acre ag field out here, and the rest is timber, but there's this 1/2-acre pond in the middle of this ag field. Wouldn't it be easier to get inventory pictures if we put that camera next to that pond? Because deer have to drink water every day. They drink 1 gallon to a 1/2 gallon every single day, sometimes a little more in the hotter summer months. But we're gonna get better, it's a better pinch point, that pond is, for putting a camera there, because the deer obviously come in there every single day to get their water. Sure, you might have a creek run through there as well, but it seems like the ponds just get hit a little bit harder for some reason, probably because the deer living out in the ag fields next to those ponds. I kick a lot of bucks up around ponds, man. Other locations, I can't stress how important seclusiveness is. You know, I went out scouting last night, had a good idea that all these deer were going to be on this back part of this field. Why? Because it was secluded. You can't see it from the road. It's where they feel safe. And sure enough, I had 20, 25 bucks walk like 30, 50 yards from me all night, and never had a clue I was there. As far as location goes, seclusiveness is the #1 thing that you have to look for. As far as the vine scrapes go, we're putting those in high traffic areas. Where do you see 2 trails meet together? Find the X, put it right in the middle of the X. Fence gaps. Fence gaps are a great pinch point. Again, great spot to run a camera this time of year to get that natural information. See, I'm running cameras over feed to get inventory, to see what is there. But to get the actual flow of the farm is what I call it. Just what I mean by flow of the farm, how the deer naturally moving through that farm, what areas are they pinching down from, what areas, what trails are they using more than others. That's what I mean by the flow of the farm. Lastly, in-person scouting. I know it sucks getting out there and sweating your butt off. Man, I had ticks crawling all over me yesterday, but dude, I just eat it up. I can't help myself. I gotta be out there learning. And what I mean by learning, for example, I just talked about how I was 25 to 50 yards away from all these bucks that were sitting on the ground last night. I'm harnessing in improving my ground hunting skills, my covert or sneaky skills per se. If you're around deer or within 25 yards or 10, 15 yards to a wild animal all off season, don't you think that you're going to be your skills or your tactics are going to be a lot more improved? You're going to know what to do. You're going to know that demeanor. That is one thing that I will say with the whole in-person scouting that is so overlooked. I love watching deer demeanor. I was watching this one buck last night. He was out there by himself and he was feeding. He was alert. He's looking around every once in a while. But then at one point, he got locked onto something that was to my right that I couldn't see. And he wouldn't quit staring at it. Then he went back to feeding nonchalant. Well, when he started locking on like that or staring, in my mind, what I'm thinking, because I've been around deer so often, I'm watching their demeanor. This is what I mean by demeanor. I know that that deer just saw another deer, saw something over there, and more than likely it's coming out. So I'm prepping myself, I'm getting my camera over there. If I'm hunting, I'm getting my bow ready, and I'm ready to draw back, because this sucker might pop up at 10 yards or he might pop up at 50 yards. Either way, I need to be ready. And that's one thing that I've learned in the summer months and in the fall, just putting time out there in the field. But there's a lot of other things that go hand in hand with in-person scouting. So say that, you know, we've got our cameras set now, we've got our permission, and this goes hand in hand with the whole location things, I guess. But say you just don't feel like you're getting the right amount of pictures. Or, man, like this camera sucks, like, let's see if we can get it to a better spot. Okay, I'm gonna go out there and do a observational sit. I'm gonna be very, very far from wherever the action is. That way I don't have to worry about disrupting the natural movement of the farm, the flow of the farm. What I'm looking for is where are these deer coming out of? How many deer? What's the number? What's the population look like on the farm? I'm getting inventory too while I'm out there. But the most important part that I'm doing with the in-person scouting is I'm identifying what trails are the hottest trails. Okay, there's this trail, there was 10 deer that came out tonight, and there was maybe 1 or 2 others that came off of these other little trails, but you know where I'm gonna move my camera? It's on the trail with 10 deer that came out of it that night. More than likely, 9 times out of 10, what I found is if a trail is hot in the summer, it stays hot all the way through the fall, through the winter. Deer like taking the path of least resistance, but more so than that, they like taking the safest, less stressful, more secluded path. So when I'm in-person scouting, I'm honing in on where those cameras need to be. That's super important, man, because you're spending all this time, all this money in trail cameras. You need to make sure that you have your trail cameras in the best available spot, or the best spot, most high traffic area. That way you're getting the most intel. If you got a camera that's only giving you like 10 pictures a week, man, or maybe even like 5 photos a day, dude, we gotta move the camera. We gotta find a better spot, because where it's at right now, it's not on a heart vein is what I say it. What I would call it. And I think of trails throughout a timber through a farm setting as little veins that run throughout the body. And you know, there's main veins and there's veins that stem off of those main veins. Well, I'm looking for the main vein kind of trail that leads me straight to that heart. Those are the trails that are going to give you the most intel. But hopefully this was a little bit more specific. As far as you know, new things going on, I've been trying to work on building the website. I think I finally got that wrapped up here today, but I want to get a couple more photos for some stuff. I've had a lot of guys reaching out trying to get some apparel, and that's going to be available very, very, very soon. Casey's working on some new stuff too. But gosh, that's about it for this week, guys. I appreciate all the questions that I've been getting. I had someone reach out last week saying I should do kind of like Jeff Sturgis style. What am I working on for the month of June? What am I working on for the month of July? Stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool, so I might add that in here as we go. But as always, guys, appreciate you watching. Thank you, and we'll see you back on the next one. Peace.